not a bad first outing. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Comic Book Nostalgia. I'm CB Nostalgia, and we have our review of the pilot episode of Batwoman. But before we get started, we wanted to make sure you got in on this month's giveaway. We're giving away a Blu-ray copy of Spider-Man Far From Home. To get in on the contest, you just have to like, comment, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Well, where to start? I'm going to say, right out of the gate, not a bad pilot episode. If you like origin stories, you're going to be pretty happy. Now, this is a strange pilot because we already met Ruby Rose's Batwoman in last year's Elseworlds crossover. But this is a full-fledged pilot, and the CW takes us all the way back to the beginning of the character with a pilot episode that's as good as many of the shows CW has put out for the DC Universe. Now, we're not going to give away a lot of plot details, but this episode is pretty much what you would call a classic origin episode. There's a ton of time for exposition dialogue, flashbacks, and more understanding on why Kate is who she is. It all works pretty well. Ruby Rose is much better than she was in Elseworlds, and is really likable in this episode. She seems more confident in the role, and she makes it really easy to be on her side. Now, something the show does fairly well, and deserves some credit, is the way it handles the sexuality of Kate and Sophie. They've made this important aspect of the Batwoman character work on TV in a way that is pivotal to the story, and addressed in a manner that will speak to those going through something similar. In other words, the sort of cliche that she's a different sort of superhero because she's gay doesn't weigh in on the story at all. It does a good job connecting to that element in everybody's life. This relationship ends up being a pivotal part of the action sequences in the episode. The action in the episode isn't too bad, and most of it works perfectly fine. I do have to say, one of the things I was glad to see they got right was how somebody of Cat Kane's size would actually fight. There's no power moves from Rose's Batwoman, but a more slick, evasive style, which is way more believable. Now, obviously it's a superhero show, so you have to suspend disbelief a little bit, but that works better than I was expecting. Pacing in the episode was a little slow, but like I said, this is an origin episode. But a few elements in the origin story felt a bit forced. There's a big save scene about 80% through the episode that'll remind you of a scene in one of the Batman movies that totally felt forced and seemed a little almost cringy. And the ending was a little predictable. When I got to this point in the episode, I had seen a couple of clues, and I wasn't really surprised at all. I'd actually called it out about 10 minutes before. One of my issues with the show is how they portrayed Luke Fox. Now, Luke Fox in the comics is not somebody to be trifled with, and is a superhero in his own right. On the show here, they really portrayed him more how they portrayed Curtis Holt, aka Mr. Terrific, over on Arrow. He's kind of a dull, easy-to-fool kind of clod guy, and that's not Luke Fox in the comics at all. Come on, we could get a Batwing show. Let's do him right. So overall, the pilot was good. Not great, but I enjoyed it enough to give it another episode. And it's definitely not the complete trash that some of the early screenings had warned. Most of the stuff people were moaning about didn't really manifest, and if it did, I would call it out. And overall, it was as good as most of what CW is offering right now. I'm a Bat person, so I'm going to keep watching, and hopefully after a few episodes, it'll become more endearing. Overall, I'm going to give this episode a 6.5 out of 10. There's a lot of room for improvement, but it definitely wasn't so bad I wanted to turn it off. Did you watch this episode of Batwoman? And what did you think? Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you press like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you won't get any updates. Peace.